Hey guys, welcome to The Dialect. This is Taylor Martin, and I have my guest here today. He goes to my church. His name is Didier, and so we are going to be talking about his experience learning English. So Didier, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Didier, and I'm from Haiti, and I speak French, Creole, and English.
Okay, so French, Creole, and English. So which one was your first language?
I started learning French when I was young. For most of my childhood, I spoke French, and actually I wasn't allowed to speak Creole at the elementary school I was at, just because like Creole was kind of seen as unprofessional, which is not really like true because most people in Haiti speak Creole, and some people actually don't speak French. People who can't afford education, like normal education. But yeah, and then English just kind of like came along, and I guess that's what we can talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, share with me kind of when did you just start learning English?
It's funny because I actually learned English by just watching TV.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, I mean they taught it at school, but I think at the time I watched a lot of. We had like a VHS at school at my house, so we had like a bunch of cassettes, like American movies, like like kids movies, like Disney, like Lion King, and all that stuff. We also listened to like there was this like American Christian radio in Haiti that like played Adventures in Odyssey, which is I don't know if people know, but it's like a little like episode thing, and every like day at like 4 o'clock, like on the way back to home, we'd listen to it, and it's really good for just like picking up stuff. I guess my sister said that's where a lot of our English developed, and just watching TV really. And I remember it's kind of weird because when I was young, I had like an accent, and it wasn't like perfect English, but like I remember but I didn't know that because I just like spoke. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
And then I remember my aunt specifically, like one day I went to the U.S. For vacation, and my aunt was like, "What happened to your accent? It's like gone." And I was like, "I don't know."
Oh wow! How long was that vacation?
It was probably like we used to like go for like every 2 years for like just summer, so like probably like maybe a few weeks, like 3 weeks maybe.
Okay, that's so interesting. So you think so? According to her, in the matter of 3 weeks, your accent
No.
Or...
It was like my aunt like hadn't seen me for a while, but like the last time she had seen me in Haiti, like an accent, and like I probably didn't speak super well. And then like she saw me again, but it's not like I went to school or anything. Like studying.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like I didn't know that there was a difference between that and English.
So for you, there was no notable journey.
I mean,
learning.
Yeah, English. It probably there was, but like I wasn't conscious of it happening.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. So, like in the linguistics world, that's what's called acquiring language as opposed to learning it, because learning is more of a conscious effort, whereas acquiring is just it's where you learn through immersion.
Right.
It's very subconscious, and like you're a prime example of that phenomenon.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and because I remember learning about that in my classes and being like, when does that ever happen? Other than like, when you're learning your native language, where you learn your second language subconsciously. Like I had never heard of that, and so when I met Didier, I was like, wow, like he's the prime like example. He needs to come to my show. That's really interesting. So how do you? So now that you're a fluent English speaker, what are some ways in which you like to use English in your day-to-day life?
Okay, that's interesting. So it's been interesting because I went to an American high school my last 2 years of high school, and like I went to a Haitian school and a French school, but then like once I got to the American school, I really like only spoke English, like everywhere, kind of like from then on till now. So it's been interesting. It's just like I use it for everything, like. When I talk to myself in English.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like it's definitely like I just use it for everything really. Like all the songs I write are in English. Just 'cause, like,
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about that actually, because I know you're a songwriter, right? So yeah, how do you feel like writing in English might be different than writing in your native languages?
It's interesting because like that's something that it's never been like I'm gonna try and write a song in French, like naturally, and the songs just come out in English. I think one is because I grew up listening to like songs in English, like, and like it's just like what spoke to me emotionally, so that's just what comes out. And also like there's like a whole like the culture is so evident in the language that it just kind of reflects it in the music too. So like French music is like a whole different attitude, different whole mindset when it's there than English, which I feel like English is more like emotional, and that's just what like the vibe of honestly any like songs in English.
Yeah.
Well, like you could say take kind of a similar song in another language, and like the feeling of it is totally different because it's another language, because it's different culture. So.
Wow, yeah. I like it. You're opening a can of worms now because there's also kind of this debate or this theory in the making about like when you speak another language, you're kind of like becoming another person. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, like 100%. Like it's so weird. Like I watch French videos. Like there's this guy on YouTube called Cyprien. He's hilarious. And like I watched a lot of his videos, but like it's a whole different like way of communicating, a whole different like the way they joke, the way that it's not just I would say this not just like the culture of France. It's just the language. And it's interesting too because I like how English words sound better. Like to me, like words are also another instrument. Like it's the sound the sound of the word is like something that I really like, which is another thing. Like in English, in French it's not the same.
So you prefer the sound of English over French?
I would say so. It's different, so it's kind of like
you like the difference.
I don't know if I would say I prefer it. But I mean, since I write songs in English and since I connect with most, I guess I do prefer it. Yeah. But French is definitely like a different sound and stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. So in terms of singing as well, you prefer to sing in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between liking to write in English versus liking to sing in English, or is that kind of all one thing for you?
That's a good question. I don't think I can really speak into that because I've never actually sang in French. Like, I can't remember like actually singing in French. But like, I think it's funny because there's one song I wrote, like, and it was when I first started writing songs. I wrote it in English, but there's one line of it that's in French. I don't know, like it just came out and it was right, and I was like, this works, like. So it's interesting that it like slipped in there, and I haven't done that since. But it makes sense because I was speaking more English.
Right.
So
What about like when you're like on the phone with your mom or whatever? Do you only speak in French, or you do some code switching? Like how?
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I'm more conscious of now. So it's interesting. Like, when definitely before I went to my American school, I think I definitely spoke French with my parents. I grew up speaking French with my parents. It's actually very different in Haiti. I feel like most people speak Creole with their parents. It's just like that's also one thing. Like you speak Creole, and it's like a whole different like mood, a whole different like person. Like I could be. There's one thing in Haiti, like you wouldn't flirt with someone in Creole. Really? Yeah, like I mean, unless you only speak Creole.
Right.
Then like it's more like it's like a you know, like a whole like
step
proper
up, like.
it's like a little yeah. So when you speak use like you foot in French and stuff. So it's like you see like there's a whole different mood on it, and like Creole's like a more relaxed and a more like I enjoy speaking Creole more. But yeah, it's sorry I got off track with your question.
No, so I was just asking like what like when you speak to familiar people like your mom or you know, how are those conversations?
I speak French with my parents.
Okay.
I grew up speaking French with my parents, but I end up like speaking English with them a lot because English is so like prevalent now.
Yeah.
And like I'm actually like now I'm like more conscious of like I try to always speak French when I talk to them because like my default is English and I don't want to like I don't want to like it's not like I haven't forgotten French, but it's harder to like switch gears now. Like I have to like, think about what I'm saying, like think of words. It's a lot slower, but it's not like I forgot anything. Like if I watch a video in French, I'm not gonna be like, wait, what is that word mean?
Right.
Like I understand completely, as if, but like it's just like speaking it. I have to like be conscious of what I'm saying more. So I try to be more intentional with my parents about French. French. Mm-hmm. But English is usually like the default.
Got it. So, well, how did they feel about you speaking English to them? Was English there? Did they learn English the same way as you?
I don't know how my parents learned English. I'm guessing they did more learning than acquiring.
Okay.
My dad has, like both of them have an accent. My dad's accent is a lot less noticeable.
Okay.
I think my mom just learned just through school.
Okay.
My dad probably too, but he was more into like the American world.
So how did they feel about you speaking English?
I don't think it was ever mentioned like what language we're speaking. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it before I came to the US for school was a lot of like back and forth. Like I would just switch back like mid conversation like
so that's code switching.
It was and we would do that like at home a lot, but like the more like I've been to American school, like the more English I've been speaking, but like at home their default is French and Creole.
Okay.
So that's kind of like it ends up being more of what we speak, like more French than English.
Mm-hmm. And then this perception that you talked about in your old elementary school of how like French is kind of more proper and more professional, does that notion still carry out through in the family life, or was it just in that particular school? Or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like Creole was not like seen as like valuable because that's the weird thing. My parents definitely spoke Creole to their parents and like to their parents in Creole. I think, which is always interesting to me. I'm like, how do we end up growing up speaking French to them? But no, they definitely speak Creole most of the time. Like they only speak like you're never gonna hear my mom. It's weird. It's like they'll like talk like let's say they get into a conversation that's like really intense. Like they'll like speak Creole, and then once like and it like to sound more professional, to sound like more emphasize what they're saying, but like switch to French, which is so interesting. Like it adds value to what they're saying.
Right. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's definitely like a culture
value thing. Like,
yeah, it's definitely not like the language itself, but like the culture attached to the language.
Right, and like a perception of like what will be most. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I remember like I think a big reason for that is because Creole developed out of the slaves in Haiti. Like a little history for everyone. Like Haiti was colonized by like France and Spain and a bunch of countries. But like all the slaves that they took from Africa were from different areas in Africa. And when they started like revolting and were like, we're done with this slave thing, like they enter like they had to they didn't speak each other's language. It was like a mixture of French and Spanish and all this stuff, but like in their languages together. So like they ended up like creating Creole. So it's like the people's language, while French is like it's a big country's language. So it's always seen as like the higher up language. So that's kind of like what the background that makes
That makes sense. What he's talking about is called creolization. And so what happens, like he said, is these European countries came and their languages highly influenced the people who they were colonizing, and their language is called the super straight. And then the other, the slave, I guess the languages of the slaves are called the substrates. And so when the super straight and the substrate come together, then you'll have a French Creole. So French is the super straight name, and then Creole just means kind of that mixture, or makeshiftness that is held together by the French. French is like the backbone of it. So linguistically, that totally makes sense what you're saying. So and so then that influences kind of the value of what's being said and the switching between Creole and French. That's so interesting. Wow. Okay.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to The Dialect and my interview with Didier. This is actually a 30-minute interview. You've already watched about 16 minutes of it. So if you would like to see part 2 of this interview, do not hesitate to subscribe, and also to leave some comments and telling me what you thought about this content and our discussion. I thought it was pretty interesting myself. And also go ahead and follow me on Instagram, TheDIALECT_, as well as my business page if you're interested in any English, Spanish, or Portuguese tutoring. That is TheDIALECT LS. All right. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.